I give thee all, I can no more, though poor the offering be. My heart and lute are all the store that I can give to thee. A lute whose gentle song reveals the soul of love full well, but for a heart that feels much more than lute can tell. Though love and song may fail, alas, to keep life's clouds away, at least it will make them lighter pass, or kill them if they stay. And even if care a moment's flings a discord o'er life's happy strain, oh, let love but gently touch the strings, 'twill all be sweet again. Oh, let love but gently touch the strings, 'twill all be sweet again. Greetings, friends. How are you doing? I hope I find you well. Yeah, welcome to, I suppose, in one way, a very special, little short hangout this time. But I think the video will speak for itself. And yeah, I hope everything is coming through okay. Just my heart and lute to begin with, and I won't. I'll just probably sing a song at the end as well, so I won't overdo it as well. I have sort of a tendency for going on way too long, so a lot of the information might be lost, you know, because people will be turned away in one sense just from the longevity of it all, you know. So I'll try to keep it short and on point tonight. The title is Venus and the Moon. So what I will be doing is comparing Venus and the Moon. And we want to see if there's any similarities there. And if there are, we can point them out and possibly explain them as well. This is the ultimate purpose. We can observe phenomena, but we need to find a cause, or at least go somewhat towards finding a cause. Yeah, that's what I'll be doing tonight in categorical terms. It would be a lot to take in, but it's the way it is. So we have to convince ourselves, first of all, and it doesn't take much convincing, that this is the case. Now, let's go about explaining it, understanding it, incorporating it into our thinking. As you see on the screen, there is a picture of a moon crater, just an ordinary moon crater. But let me go back to it a second and just talk very briefly about it, because I want to go straight on to the main point. This is Aristarchus, and doesn't matter. It's any and all of the craters. It's any and all of everything, actually. And anyone who's been gazing at this, you'll be gazing yet, because there's so much to see here. The reason I have up just off the bat, if you've been looking at it, let me point out a few things, first of all, that stick out. This is the most important thing that appeared to us to stick out. There we have our 8 in the center. And I asked Jamie yesterday what he saw in a different one. He said he saw a horse's head, which is excellent. I can see exactly why he saw the horse's head. But here we see the 8, pretty clear, right? I'm not saying anything or stating anything definitively. This is the significance of the 8. This is the importance of 8. But look, if not to tell you what you're seeing, but if you sort of go along a certain outline, look at what you get. Right, so it'll go down along. Your jiggy jaggy pieces, and then you're in here. What does that look like to you? Yes, it's a G, right? You see it? Now, what you're actually looking at is the same layer repeated endlessly forever and ever inwards. This is what we'll have to come to terms with. And it's not immediately obvious, but you're actually looking at infinity here in real terms. Again, this is crater Aristarchus, but it could be any crater. And indeed, it is a lot of craters, especially the ones that are named with historical figures, you know, presented to us on pedestals. Plato, for instance, the crater Plato is very revealing. Archimedes is very revealing as well. But all it is the same crater being repeated again and again. And I pointed out already, a crater, creator, this is all significant. We can see certain patterns here. The more we zoom in, the more, what do you call it, unbelievable it gets. So I don't want to dwell on this too much. There's your 8 again. Let me just go over that. Just in rough terms, that's your 8. And there's your G. This is why these numbers are significant. This is why this is what everything is encoded towards, everything, every single thing. I looked out this evening or today, you can't help but see it now, and it's everywhere, the same pattern, the same pattern. It is ubiquitous, it's omnipresent. And yeah, I just showed it at the Hope in the Hangout because I hope if you might have been looking at it and you ask yourself, what am I seeing here? Well, the 8 and the G will jump out at you, right? But lots of other things will absolutely jump out at you when you delve in a lot deeper. So without further ado, let me actually, I better go into just to make sure it's coming through. I have no problem. I have no fears that it is. Yeah, there you go. Okay. Okay, welcome. I won't go into chat now, so I'll just continue on and present the evidence, present the case, Venus and the Moon. So let me move on to that. What I'm going to do is compare very high definition artist rendering, I guess, Apollo or NASA offerings. You know, so even though a lot of it is touched up or whatever, a lot of it is composited. It's probably an accurate view, or as accurate a view you're going to get of it, right? But when we look at detail in detail at it, we'll see that. Well, we'll see what we'll see. Okay, so what I want to do is just share my full screen and take it from there. Okay, share full screen. I'm not bothered about any sort of presentation skills or anything like that. I'll just try put out as best I can and walk you through as best I can what I'm trying to put across. Pay attention with your eyes. You're free to come back at any time. You're free to do your own analysis. But hopefully at the end of this short video, you will have no doubts as to the correlation. So let's get going. Move that and let's bring up a few images. Here we have just a Google search image, and as you can see, as we zoom in here, this is Venus on the left, and we're just comparing it in size to Earth, right? We're all familiar with the blue marble here of Earth on the left, which is very interesting in itself. I can show you something in a second, but the point is this is Venus here. So what we're going to do is, as you see, as I zoom in, it retains very high definition. Your eyes will take a little bit of adjusting to sort of make sense of what you're seeing, or not that there's anything to make sense of. What we're looking for here is recognizing patterns, recognizing correlations. I've often said that about the Milky Way and the moon. You're talking about a stencil almost. So you're talking about a stencil versus the piece of paper that the stencil is used to display the pattern on. And it's this equivalent relationship between them, an undeniable relationship. Now it goes, let me just say, this is very shallow in one sense for me now. This is very shallow, so I'm just talking you through it because I know that everything has moved on a number of steps for me personally. But I'll put this out here anyway, and well, you'll be able to do the same yourself. And the great thing about this is you'll be able to do the same for every other thing that's been presented to us. Let me just show you. Okay, so here's Venus and here's the full moon, right? We all recognize this. I haven't adapted any of these pictures in any way. It's not my way to do anything like that. I'm just trying to make an honest inquiry, an honest comparison, an honest endeavor. So it is what it is. And I know what it is. So it's about me pointing out to any others, any listeners, any interested parties, what exactly it is. All right. I just want to show you something before we continue on. We look at Earth here, the blue marble, they call us. This is all given to us. We, there's method behind the madness. So just vaguely look at the pattern, the imprint. We have Africa here as it curls around, and most of the rest of the Earth is missing. So if we compare Africa, if we compare that just to, let me see, here we go. This is a picture of Mars. I hope you can see my screen. So we see Africa curling around to the Horn of Africa. And we see this very, very similar pattern, right? It's not exact, but it's almost exact. If we could count, say, this blob down here is Antarctica, even towards the tip here, we have it curling off in this secondary direction. This is very, very similar, remarkably similar, in fact. And yes, there's a reason behind this. You're not being wound up on you're not being wound up on a massive level. Yeah, there's a different reason behind all of this, and it goes into fractals. You have to wrap your mind around fractals. I think we've been sort of prepared for it enough in terms of our journey here. We've had to consider lots of different possibilities, lots of different thought experiments. So yeah, and now we're dealing with reality, and reality is far more stranger than anything our minds have thus far entertained. So anyway, let me move on. That was just a by the way, and as I say, this pattern is not coincidental, or it's not some sort of a trick or a wind-up. It's sort of an education for us, actually. So once the time is right, we make our way here, and well, here we are. So let me start off. So we're familiar with the moon. This is the orientation that arrives to me in Ireland here. And as I've already pointed out, with the moon is a reflection of the face of the sun. What the sun is, I've gone into the detail as well. Everything goes back to Aristarchus. All of the craters you see on the moon here, what appear to be separate, distinct craters, are in fact all the same crater. It's all of this. This is Aristarchus here. So this is what we're going to focus on. This is identified as Aristarchus. Next door to it, let me zoom in a little bit more. Okay, here we go. It's not the greatest quality picture in terms of zoom in quality, but it is a high definition picture of the moon, and it's absolutely very adequate for my purposes. The thing I mentioned about equipment, when looking at the moon, it gives a very different type of look than what we see with our naked eye. So we have to be aware of that. Ultimately, it is about pattern recognition, and once you can recognize the pattern, then it becomes certain that you're dealing with the same thing. So this is ultimately the major concern, right? So once we find a pattern and settle on that, then we can get better quality images. You can do that yourself, because nothing's going to change. Just like the face of the moon never changes, nothing is going to change. All of these, everything, all the comparisons I'm making now, I'm going to make. Anyone's free to do, and no one can change the evidence. That's the beauty of it all. Just briefly, this is Aristarchus. It's like it's in a pit, right? And I think it's a stump. For all the world, it's a stump. It's a crater. And I've showed you sort of pictures of the outline of it. That's given to us. Everything we need to know about Aristarchus is on the moon here. There's plenty of different angles we're viewing it from. For instance, here is a top-down angle, where it's the plan view of this. It's the same thing. That's what we're looking down upon. Here is a smaller version of this, right? And you can see, roughly see the span of it here, right? So that's your big clue. But you can go into many other places on the moon. Let me just show you over here, for instance. Look, here it is again. And this might sound strange to people, or again, it might take a while to adapt and adjust your eyes, but this is it again. And here is that sort of jagged, ragged edge. All these dots are matchable, or you can line them up. There's plenty of opportunity for you. Just find the appropriate image, appropriate comparison. You see all these dots here. It's all the same thing. Over here, all these dots around. These are all the same thing, just being repeated, being shown from different angles. And as I say, a hall of mirrors. So you have to think in terms of kaleidoscopic, sort of fractal hall of mirrors. This is what's happening. Anyway, to move on, our starting point is what is called Aristarchus. That within the name tells you that it is the answer, it is the key. It's Christ's aura, Christ's gold sun. Also, great anagram, Icarus Wraths. If you look up a wrath, a fairy fourth, it's like a Stonehenge. The Stonehenge represents what I pointed out earlier on, the center of Aristarchus, where I pointed out the G. That's the G, that's Stonehenge. And I've even located, once you zoom in on Aristarchus, you can locate the different points. Let me just say about Aristarchus again. Look, I'll just show you. So you can zoom in to whatever detail you like. Everything is fractalized. Can you see almost an ear here? This is God's ear, right? It's the ear of TH. So we have Earth, the heart of the Earth. So heart and Earth, you move the H to the front. Then keep doing it. You have the T to the front, so with the TH, the theta, ear. Theta is everything, the 1 and the 0. Okay, what I was just going to point out, I probably did that in a different crater, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. You see these three dots that look like Orion's belt. They're orientated that way. Well, that's because it is Orion's belt. But because it's fractal, there's millions, however number one of Orion's belt. You can't see it there clearly. You just, it was clearer on actually a different. Let me just bring it up. Actually, sorry. Now I just do this because I think it was here. Hang on. I think it was Crater Jackson, which is I talked about Michael Jackson in the dodo. So this Crater Jackson is loaded with clues as well. You have to just adjust your eyes. Let me just zoom out a small bit. Exactly the same as Crater Eratosthenes, or not Eratosthenes, Aristarchus. Just perspective, slightly different perspective. Adapt your eyes, adjust your eyes. And yeah, play your video game, get in, take pictures from that position, then imagine going to a different position, looking at the same thing and getting a different perspective on it. Okay, this isn't it either. No, I have it somewhere. Okay, I have, see it. Okay. Oh yeah, look, you can see it clearly here. Look, see these three dots here that look like they could be Orion's belt. Well, that's because they are. They are. You see three dots out here? Look like they could be Orion's belt. That's because they are. It's all a fractal. It's all a fractal. And there's a lot of mirroring going on. That's a different story. This is where the Isle of Man and the Triskelion comes back into reckoning. Anyway, I'm not going to dwell on that. I can expand on that a different time. So that might sound like a crazy thing. What do you mean that's Orion's belt in the middle of that bunch of rocks here? Well, no, you're not looking at what you think you're looking at. But this is Orion's belt. There's absolutely no doubt about it. And yeah, it's not just one Orion's belt. There's millions and millions and millions and millions of them. Infinite mirrors, think in that sense. So anyway, okay, let me go back to the comparison and stop waffling. Yeah, pointed out here as well. Look, there's Orion's belt. And everything else can be located nearby, you know. That's why I was finding more than one Milky Way, and I was getting confused because there is more than one. It's fractal, it's an infinite number. Look at the 8 sticking out as well. Actually, doesn't it look almost like a side profile of God there from a certain view, and you have the ear here, or vision of God, I should say, but you have the ear here. Anyway, okay, let me stop talking and go back to the point of all of this. So here we have the moon. We're zoomed in on Eratosthenes. Now, this is called crater Herodotus. Herodotus, right? Herodotus, right, almost. You think it's a separate entity again. You think all of this is a separate sort of structure, whatever the heck is going on here. But it's not. It's not. It is something in a pit, but it seems to be mirroring, right? Or this is the main thing that's mirroring. So whatever's in this pit is mirroring around. But this Herodotus is Aristarchus. It's simply, you're dealing with sort of shadows, you're dealing with overlays, you're dealing with optical illusions, right? So we have to bear that in mind as well. But you don't need to understand that or to accept that at this point. That's our starting point, and let's take it from there. I don't have to reorientate anything. This is the thing. This is the orientation that Venus came in. It's the orientation I see the moon in. So here we are at the top left corner, and let's zoom in. Right. Let's do the same with Venus. So top left corner. I'll show you. Sorry. Top left corner, and I've located it already, so I'll just go straight to the point. So here we are. Now let me just get the pen colors the same. Okay, just to point out different things. I sort of walk my way through it as well, so I know that I know what it is already, and I'll probably end up going a different direction and just lining up different things. So this here is all there is. This is Aristarchus, right? This is all there is, and this is this here. So this is our starting point, right? Now, as I just pointed out previously, this here, let me just give you a sense of scale here. We also have to bear in mind, a few things we have to bear in mind. These big wide patches here, the oceans as they're called, the mares. Mares is funny as well. A mare, a horse, right? Jamie was talking about yesterday, seeing a horse. Yeah, as I said, everything is for a reason. So this is the scale of it. So I'm pointing out just below that. So we're going from here down to here. So I'll just go downwards first of all. So as you see, it's not a straight line down. This is a curved pathway around, right? Another thing I need to point out, it's not, there's no point in me mirroring this, because as you see, it's sort of lined up, but there is, like here, for instance, this white patch here is this side. As we look at it, it's to the left side of this center point, and this it's to the right side here, right? But that's because we're looking through a mirror. It's like in the end of 2001: A Space Odyssey. Dave was looking at himself through the mirror, so we weren't looking at his reflection. That's thanks to Rob Egger or other people like that. I found out these things. So we're looking through the mirror as opposed to things being reflected. You know, this is what your mirror reflection is actually when you sort of think deeply about how can your hand, for all the world, your mirror is holding up his right hand, but you're holding up your left hand. So what exactly is happening there? Well, yeah, you're looking through it, right? So, yeah, we'll just bear that in mind as we come down. There's more things to bear in mind as well, but we'll just follow the pathway as it is. So we come down here. Any of these details, we can zoom in on and make the connection. Right? So there's a clear pathway down here. So this is our clear pathway down here. Right? This crater, again, all the same crater. It's hard to believe that this and this is the same, right? Because they look so different, the size is so different. Well, they're exactly the same crater, and you have to sort of make that leap first of all, but don't make that leap quite yet. It's going to take a while. So this is this crater here. So we can go anywhere again. Yeah, you can see the patch here again, another patch here. I'm just going to go over it roughly, not go into intricate depth, because, as I say, you can see there's a sort of an eschewance there. So one seems to be, to me, one seems to be sort of a section of the other, because I think the moon and its reflection is much nearer. We are getting sort of a fuller picture, but only in the sense, as I said, we're looking at fractals. So once you understand you're looking at a fractal, it doesn't matter how big or how small it is, because the same pattern repeats over and over again, right? And this is confusing. It does take a while to wrap your mind around. It absolutely does. And I can understand that completely. So here we have, yeah, again, just identified this. It's all the same crater. We have this vague line coming over to this direction to join itself, right? And here we have this line as well. You can see it curving up and around. These are all shadows, reflections. As I say, when you're looking at the planets, when you're looking at the moon, you're looking at the sun even, you're looking at reflections, right? The main source is way up north, and it's Polaris. So as Polaris does its oval spin, yeah, everything else we see are reflected artifacts of that central Polaris star Arcus, right? Polaris Arcus. The clue is in the name. So yeah, right to its right. Here we have this monstrosity. Look at that. What the heck is that? What the heck is that? Looks like some sort of a cookie monster, right? A nasty sort of version. Well, no, all it is the crater here. We can see the pathway over and across and down and around. Here's the same pathway over and across, down and around. Even actually, look at this pattern here, or this edge. Let's zoom in a small bit. Here it is. It's that edge here. See all the bristles, what look like bristles, sort of scattering around the edge. Don't worry about that. That's the sort of the perimeter of the crater, and you can see the pattern, how it follows around. You have the vague rough shape here in black. Remember, you're looking in. Oh yeah, you need to also adjust your eyes to think in terms of 3 dimensions. You're looking into something. Once you adapt your eyes to that, you'll be able to look at the moon every time. You'll be able to look at this crater Copernicus every time and understand that you're looking into a depth. Okay. This is very intriguing. This is actually, as I said, it's an artist's impression, is it? Or, you know, it's look at how detailed it is, and look at all these artifacts strewn everywhere. All the different craters are all, you know, in Venus. I'm not sure the composition of Venus exactly, It is solid, I think, isn't it? So yeah, again, this is all described as crater impact sites again and again and again. All obviously, if you follow the official explanation, all independent and unique sort of crashes. So they're all different, but that's not exactly what we find. Um, so yeah, this is. Let me just go back here. This is Copernicus here. You need to, as I say, adapt. You need to sort of adjust your eyes, understand what you're trying to see, what you're trying to look into, and match it up. So I'm just going to go back up. So here we have general view is just down here. I'm just going to go back up, zoom out a small bit. Yeah. Let's go back to Eratosthenes, or Aristarchus. I'm going north, young man. So as we look across this way, we see all of these scars here. And you ask yourself, what are all of these scars? What's going on? I mean, the moon is still a very mysterious object, right? No one has, as far as I can see, no one has nailed it down. No one has certainly brought me any closer to understanding. Look at all the outline shading here. Look at it. And when actually now that I'm looking at it, it's like a sort of an X-ray or night vision, three-dimensional view of Venus, right? So you can perceive the height and the terrain changes. Right, up and around. So we take a pathway up and around. Remember, there is distortion. It's due to sort of the viewing or the nature as well of these things. Um, Again, this might be an artist's rendition, but a rendition of something that you actually have a chance of seeing in reality. Yeah, here we go, up and around. Okay. I'm just trying to get my bearings now. Okay. I didn't have to travel too far. Let's just move over here for a second. Here, yeah, look at this. Look at this crater here. Pretty sure it's this one here, but there's so many different craters. We look for a more, yeah, this point here. Okay, I'm sorry now. I'm just confusing myself slightly. But how would I explain the funny thing here is you could start at any one crater because once again it is a reflection, a mirroring of the same thing over and over again. So there's going to be the same characteristics attached to it. But I'm just trying to decide if this crater here is this one here. How come I? Yes, it is. Yes, it is because yeah, you can see. Okay, let's just jump from. Let's just jump across from Eratosthenes, or sorry, Aristarchus, with the disk crater in the center, and just let's see if we can find any matching points. Reflection as well. This is a reflection. It's a realistic reflection. These are all images we're seeing from the moon. So it is a realistic reflection, as real as it gets, 4K reflection, but it is a reflection of a core solidity that has just been kaleidoscopically, well, there's more to it. It's not just a kaleidoscopic camera trick. It's been fractally, yeah, expressed, I suppose. Yeah, here we go. Are you seeing any spot any similarities? Can you see how one come from the other? Yeah. So we look at the crater here, and we see this outline big here. Again, three-dimensionalize it. Three-dimensionalize everything. See down here. So this is where we're going. We're going along this path and down. See this area here? Gels with this area here. As we come down to a boundary, and asking yourself, what are all these lines in here? Well, you can see them. Look, you can see these traces here. So it's constant interference, constant overlapping of the same thing. This is what I mean when I say the Milky Way, not the Milky Way, what do you call it? I'm sorry, now you just sort of get lost in it when you're doing it. There's so many different interactions going on. Yeah, as I pointed out up here, so here we go, into a central area, which is again Aristarchus being, yeah, here we go. I was looking for that. So look, here we come down. So look at this distinctive crater, this distinctive crater. That's Aristarchus, that's Herodotus. Remember I was telling you that? And this is the reflection of Aristarchus. Oh, just a reflection of the same thing. So here we have, let's zoom in. Just here, can you see the vague trace of it? I'll just take that away quickly now, which is this. All right, let me take both of them away. See it? Right, so just for reference then, just beneath it, here we have this other circle. Right? Can't miss that, it sticks out. And you can see the trail here as well, look. The one thing I can't stress enough is don't stress too much over it if you don't immediately sort of spot it or see it. It is very confusing. As I say, you're dealing with fractals. You're dealing with sort of wrapping your brain first of all around seeing the same thing in different sizes, but in the same format or formation, repeated over and over again, and trying to uncoil it, if you will. Yeah, trying to uncoil it and understand what you're seeing. Okay. You can see these is swathes flowing down. This is what I understood to be the Milky Way initially, and indeed it is. But yeah, there's more to the story. So here, let me change jump location. Let's go down to the corner right. So here we go, right corner. Look at this. Would you believe? Would you believe? You see this box in the corner here? If you think about it, it looks tricky. You're looking into a hole. Would you believe when you look at that, you're looking at this? And you know what this is? I've mentioned it enough times. Here we go. If you want to call it a pit, feel free. Would you believe you're looking at that? Even down to the little stem. Look at the stem here. Look at the little stem seeping off of it. But here it doesn't seem to blend into anything. Although it does, if you look closer, you can see a sort of a vague shadow. Let's just zoom right in. See a vague circular shadow, but you can clearly see the white blob with this line coming from it. And here you see the white blob here with this line coming from it. They're one and the same. You're dealing with just a different view. And that's a good, it's almost like a pit, isn't it? It's almost like a pit. So what I say is this is all there is. This is the pit that is. And everything stems from here. This is what I talk about, this being a reflection. And the rest of this being a reflection. All there is this reflecting around. Now let me just show you a picture here a second. Of Aristarchus within the pit, if you want to call it that. There you go. Right. So here we go. This is inside Aristarchus, right? And this is Herodotus. This is what's called, they've called Herodotus. Again, if we zoom in Herodotus, you can see all of these little dots. And remember where I pointed out the Orion's belt earlier on? It's also there. It's there in many different sizes, right? So you have the big down to the small. Everything is fractal. When you look at this, let me just point out about this crater, another crater. So there's a crater, they tell us, within a crater. No, it isn't. No, it isn't. This is a fractal overlaying, and this is this, right? Just been overlaid. So just as this has this attached to it, this bit smaller one would have the same thing attached to it, like this one. So ever fractal, ever decreasing circles. Here we have another Orion's belt candidate, strewn all over. It's because they are all over. The same pattern repeats again and again. But yeah, just to say, there's all there is. Remember all those spines I was talking about earlier on? Here we can see the reasoning for it. Shine a massive light up through the bottom of this, and all of these little spines and whatever you want to call them, indentations in the land, if you will show up. Here we have all of these as well. And indeed, I've shown that when the sun, with its apparent glare, and the pattern attached to it is compared to some of these spines, well, it's the one is the source of the other. Yeah, so there's Aristarchus. Let me just bring back up here this pit at the other end. So let me just rotate this around just to give you the correct orientation. Up again. That's probably close enough. You can even see the line here. You see the pattern. Remember, this is through the looking glass. This is through the looking glass, as opposed to being a reflection. It's okay. Anyway, so I can't just mirror this and then get exactly that, but we can see that both are intimately connected, or well, pretty much exactly the same. So this Aristarchus, this is Herodotus. You can just make it out here. But it is a shadow. It is a reflection of the same thing. And this as well, again, the same thing, fractaling out. or reflecting out as well. That's another important aspect. Reflecting, mirrors reflect, water reflects. Just down the corner here, you can see Aristarchus as well. Same thing. This incomplete area is representative of, it's not a complete circle. Remember, I was talking about the G earlier on. So it's not a complete circle. We have this, what looks like rubble damage going down the side of the crater. If we zoom in, you see it's like a coliseum with this. This is not the best picture of it now. With this half sort of caved in. This is what gives us our G as well. So just wanted to point that out to you. Here we have same thing again, reflection of reflection. We need to think in terms of spiraling patterns as well. But yeah, you can see even all the, I could even do a good comparison of this versus the thing at the top. So if you think in terms of the pit, you see all the light ways and the pathways. Let me just go up to the top again to show you. Actually, hang on. Okay. Definitely notice people who could do a much greater job at presenting this. I'm terrible. So apologies for that. But it's just about getting the idea across more than anything else. It's not about really for me proving anything. This is a small, I've sort of moved beyond, just accepted that this is the case myself now, you know what I mean? So I've moved beyond that because you can't help but move beyond it. Here's the, yeah, look, you can see, look at this circle. Let me just rotate that around actually. Rotate left 90. Okay, let me do that. There we go. There's a good example of what I'm talking about. So if we follow it backwards, there we have what looks like a C, right? But look at here. Look at here on Aristarchus. It's reversed, right? It's reversed. Now I can't just flip that. I can't just flip that because then Aristarchus will be on the other side. So that's what I mean by looking through the mirror. You're at the other side of the mirror. But this is excellent sort of 3D representation. And there's your third piece. So let me just bring that up again. That's an even better. It helps sometimes just to rotate things around and you sort of get a better visual grasp on things. Hang on. Oh, here we go. Perfect, yeah. Let me reverse that. Look at that. Here's Aristarchus. Here's, look at this vague shadow. This is Herodotus, but it's the same thing. And, well, you're seeing inside the pit. So this is what's been reflected, this whole pit, everything inside it. But again, all there is the one thing, Aristarchus, transmitting, reflecting over and over again. Oh yeah, look, remember I mentioned it earlier on? As we came down from Aristarchus, let me just show you. Hang on, I keep losing track of the moon. Here we go. Down here, look. That's where we started. And this is the complete other side of Venus. And here we have, in the same direction, the same thing. It's amazing. It's mind-boggling. It's mind-boggling. And that's why I don't want to spend too much time in it in one sense, because I know I'm dealing with this jumbled up vision or projection of the same thing, overlapping with itself again and again and again in a fractal fashion. So what we need to do is recognize the patterns and make the equation between, and I just rotate that back. There is no up and down in space, right? Rotate left 90 degrees the other way, sorry. So you can see, look, it's mirror. It's a mirror. Mirror on the wall. That comes back into reckoning with the triskelion as well. With it's the what do you call it? The motto. It's the herald, is whatever, of the Isle of Man. And you have just three legs emerging from a center point, in perfect sort of symmetry. So I think that's telling us a lot. It's telling us we are dealing with reflections, and we have to distinguish reflections from the thing reflecting. And you can whittle it down then. Bob's your uncle. Okay. Let's move on to this monstrosity here. Look at the size of that. You notice this line coming out? Again, remember, you're looking into a crater. Imagine you're looking into a crater, a big hole. It's the same hole I just showed you a second ago, Aristarchus hole. Remember this big line coming out? Yeah, well, there it is in a magnified sense. So we're dealing with the same thing. It's here. This is crater Tycho. Actually, I did a much better job just doing the comparison myself and not saying diddly. I really did. It is a good example here, actually. Look at this. Let me just circle this the way I don't lose it. Look at this shape here, this particular shape. Here we go. Look at how close it is. And that shape is very pertinent. This shape pops up again and again. This is the serpent of old. This is the serpent that's been incorporated into our culture, right? I can locate this serpent now. It's to be found everywhere. It's to be found in the moon. Look out your window, you'll see it in the clouds. You'll see it everywhere fractaling. And I can explain why it is fractaling. And where it is fractaling from. And as I say, once you see it, you can't miss it, because right before you on the moon itself, it's fractaling. See it here? Just let's show you a couple of instances how it is. So this area here, let me just circle it. I'm not saying they're equivalent, but it's the same shape. There's the same serpent, right? You can see it again and again. That serpent there, if you want to call it that, it's just an interaction. There we have it again. Right? You can see equivalence under slightly different circumstances, but well, yes, it is the same thing again and again, and not just once or twice. It's what can you say? Infinite mirrors. And it really is. It really is. From the largest dot, from the largest crater, if you will, to the smallest one, it's the same thing. This will be shown clearly. By okay, I'm sorry now. Everything's a lot bigger as well, so I'm trying to sort of get my bearings. Everything's a lot bigger, which is what leads me to believe, this is what I'm saying, because Venus is further away, we are getting to see, I would say it's still fractal, but it's sort of the smaller aspect. You know, it's the next scale down. And I think the further you get in terms of planets, this is the same thing that we're dealing with. The same pattern indeed is uh, discernible on Mars. I have that there. I'm boring myself now actually at this stage, so I don't think I'll go into Mars tonight. I will just let you know that I have it's the same pattern. The moon is the thing that we can go by, right? Because we can see it in all its clarity. When we understand we're dealing with a reflection, and especially when we're dealing with a reflection of one thing that's been repeated over and over again, that simplifies things a whole hell of a lot. Um, you can find it in Saturn, same pattern in Saturn, and it seems to get very, very hazy then once you get beyond a few choice planets, you know. And well, yeah, as I say, it's Aristarchus again and again in its fractal form. Yeah, as I said, I did better now. I did better on my own, just looking through it. But I think, yeah, for instance, let me say, yeah, there we go. Look at the distance in the moon as it appears to us from crater Copernicus all the way down to crater Tycho. Like a massive distance. But over here on Venus, I'm saying that it's simply just from here to here. A completely different kettle of fish, right, as it appears. So we've got to sort of change our perspective and align. And can you see how it wraps around again? Look at this wraparound feel. You know, we're sort of accustomed and we're sort of trained as well in terms of thinking 2D when we're looking at pictures. So that's something that we have to adapt and learn to sort of overcome. But yeah, you can see the pattern as it wraps around. It's exactly the same thing here. Aristarchus again magnified. So these are not real. They're not real craters, right? We have to get that into our brain. Once you do get that into your brain, you're on the pig's back. Okay. You can see that what I call the Milky Way swathe here, it doesn't show up too prominently on Venus, but I'm happy enough as well. As I say, these are all artifacts, reflected artifacts. So there's no solidity to them. So it's not surprising at all that they show up in some places and they don't show up in other places. Okay. I thought my days of looking very quickly. Yeah, you can see this pattern here. It's emanating upwards towards itself again. And no matter, and as I say, no matter what sort of fine detail you want to go into, it will always match up. It's impossible that it doesn't match up because, as I say, it's the same thing over and over again. I'm not doing. I know I'm not doing a very convincing job of it, and oh gosh, hang on. I think what I might try to do in future is make a few short videos offline, just using Hangouts, and maybe I can edit them then, you know, cut out the bullshit and just get the major point across. It definitely does take some sort of study. It definitely does take some time to familiarize yourself with what you might or might not be seeing. But when you do take that time, as I say, it presents itself in all its glory, yeah, all its truth, all its truth. As I say, it's true to me now. It's true that this is what's happening here. This is the this is the wonder of it. I don't know what to do with the truth. I can't believe that the people missed it. Even tonight, I found the mirror here on Aristarchus or on Venus, but I knew it was on the moon, as it not just mirrored once, but here we have it on Venus as well. So that's just another confirmation to me. Um, this line, this is back to Aristarchus. This line here, you can see the ridge almost as well. Look, see these ridges? This way I picture it at this stage is it looks here as like a tree stump that's been furrowed out, beheaded obviously, but then furrowed out, and you're looking into it. That's the way I see it, and that's not going to change. That's not going to change. So it's up to you then to decide um, how valid this is or not. And that simply involves you doing your own research. There's no ways around it. Um, we've put plenty of time into flat Earth. Fuck it, I did a much better job earlier. I'm very sorry. I did a much better job earlier on just finding these matches. Uh, this area here, for instance, can we say that that's that area? Uh, yeah, look at this curve around here. Look at how detailed this is, though. Can't believe how detailed, how much I'm able to zoom in. Look at that. Okay. Oh, that's an excellent representation there. I'm sorry, I'm confusing myself now. This is all that's happening. Because the more I look at it, the more I can't believe the detail I'm seeing here. When you understand that you're looking down upon Aristarchus here, and let me just show you the pattern as well. There we go. There we go. So if I just flip this for your convenience here, There you go. That's what you're looking at. It's hard to credit, isn't it? Oh, I just saw it here. Look at the snake even. This is what's called Cobra Valley. So let me just rotate that around. And once more. This is what's called Cobra Valley, I think. Is it Cobra Valley? Um, but look at it. It's exactly the same. Slightly different angle. Yeah, this is all there is. It's after this point it starts to repeat. So let me just this is a great illustration to point out what we're looking at. You can see the pit here, right? You can almost see the pit. You just go up along, see the pit. Now you can understand that this is it. It's not at the center, but yeah, this is all there is. A great view here. Um, we don't see this too much. We don't see this too much. Uh, but that's okay because these are just artifacts. These are the connecting points. These are the reflections of this main thing. So here we have the main thing itself. You can see I don't need to go into too much detail here. You can see all this pattern. So this is going to be great actually for comparing the ray spread pattern of the sun as seen from high altitude clouds above, or sorry, as seen from above high altitude, um, to this. So you can see, we can see all the little spines and spindles, like a sort of an erupted volcano, that sort of pattern. So, and of course, every volcano has its craters as well. But you wouldn't think you were seeing that, right? But you're not seeing what you think you're seeing, because the more you zoom in, again, let me just same thing here. The more you zoom in, you think you understand what you're seeing. Not quite, right? Because the more you zoom in and the more you observe, the more you see that you're dealing with fractal layers. You're dealing with layer upon layer upon layer. So eventually, after looking enough, you're not sure whether it sticks in or sticks out. I do think it does protrude. This allows it to broadcast against the barrier it itself creates, like above us. And yeah, there's no end to it. There's no end or beginning to it. Aristarchus. It is everything, and it's all prevailing. Once again, let your eyes adapt. Takes a while. Understand what you might be looking at, and then you'll get a better perspective. They have layer upon layer upon layer upon layer, and it's endless. It never stops. This is where the penis comes into things then as well. The penis and the sun, they're one and the same, right? Everything is interconnected. We have to forget this doesn't end externally. This is all encompassing. So your very being, I guess, is interconnected with all of this. You're beginning to see clearer now. It's just continual layers, and you have interactions then, which are causing this mess of illusion. And that's what you have to shake yourself from. Well, I think we are dealing with the infinite. I thought initially that, look, are we just dealing with this reflection off of a contour barrier, and we're getting all manner of visual effects, and that is possible. Especially even with the clouds, as I say, these patterns are ever present in the clouds as well. So that could be as a result of being constantly bombarded by these same energies, this same emanating energy. But when when we see the craters on Earth, big craters on Earth, adhere to the same form as the only crater there is, Eratosthenes, or Aristarchus, well, then we know it extends to Earth as well and beyond. So I've mentioned this before. Flat Earth doesn't matter. It's not about, well, it doesn't matter at this stage, right? If the Earth was flat or not. The Earth, you could take it as being one of these layers. Big stack of pancakes, everyone identical to the one before, like just apparently different in size. It's like a pyramid in one sense, a traffic cone. As I'm looking down now, it's like a traffic cone looking down in it. That's what I was thinking earlier on about the unicorn and the horn. The unicorn's horn is exactly that. It's a fractal, right? And when you look down upon it, like in a plan view, it's one layer upon an ice cream cone, all the way down. This is what the pyramid represents as well. So, what does this represent in the center then? What are we actually looking at? That's the thing we have to discern. Is it the eye? It's the pupil of the eye, the tip of the penis. It's this sort of thing. You see, as I say, we are intertwined in all of this. Our very being, it's all one big organic reality, and as within, so without. So once we recognize this connection and our intricate connection to this infinity, if you will, it's the zero and the infinity, right? It's the alpha and the omega. Um, Once we understand our part, that's where I think the connectivity comes into things, right? So we can understand what's going on somewhat, and we can see ourselves then as being part of it, and maybe all of it in one sense, yeah, yeah. Let me just to show you, I was looking for a few pictures of Mars, and I got this one. You have the same thing again, just much sort of more compact, tighter version. Let's just zoom in on the crater on Mars here. I already pointed out the similarity between the blue picture marble and the other picture of Mars I showed. Let me just zoom in on this crater. And go. Okay. You see the equivalence here? This is just a dune. All these dunes are represented here. Again, craters, all craters. But can you see the similarities here? Look at this sort of walkway. Again, you're looking into both. So this is a more direct look down upon it, but you can see all the shading. Let me just zoom out a small bit. You can see all the shading is reflecting that sort of three-dimensionality to it. And here we have same pathway. Is a circle even? Can you see the circle? There it is. You just get rid of that. Okay. But look, it's like a walkway. It's like a path in, right? And I mean, it might just be me now because I'm so accustomed to looking at these and the thinking in terms of um, sort of more vertical sort of view down onto things. But look at the pathway here. And then here we have it here. And here's a good example of sort of a back surround, right? You can see it's suggested here. It is demonstrated, right? You clearly what appears to be looking into a hollow. You can see the sort of broken away bit. It's a broken away bit here as well. Yeah, that's it's the same bit from here to here. Same broken away bit that's been reflected again and again. So when you're actually looking at this, maybe that might be a better comparison here. Let's just rotate this. Yeah. Oh, that looks good now. So these two things should have absolutely no bearing or relation, even vague relation to one another. But indeed, hang on. Indeed, they have that intimate relationship with one another. And, well, yeah. There is no denying it after a certain time. Even the outcrop here, look at this outcrop. It almost seems to match with this outcrop. But remember, there's something else going on in terms of mirroring here. We have mirrored aspects, and as my understanding goes, everything is mirrored 3 times. So there is one core. So if you want to, for instance, just say like here into a third, this is probably all there is. Or maybe that would incorporate. Hang on, that would probably incorporate a bit of the something like that. Bit of the destruction here. So this is what's been mirrored and then been broadcast to the world. What's the true nature of it? Well, these are questions for later, right? These are questions for later on. All I know is everything is far, 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 far more wondrous than we would ever, we could ever give credit for. And well, look, you can even see, hang on, this is not a great quality image now, but you can even see this pattern. Look at this sort of swathe. You see it? It's like a cliff face or something. Well, this mirrors this here. It's the same thing. That's a good likeness here, actually. That's a good match. So that's it. You're looking at the same thing again and again and again and again and again. There's nothing else. There's nothing else. All of these representations they give you of Mars, yeah, deeply encoded. I think the truth is placed there in front of us in plain sight because it was always intended for us to find out the truth. And well, Aristarchus is the truth. I'm a bit disappointed in myself actually for how I presented that. I think I'll do that in future. I'll just do it off screen and yeah. And then yeah, then just post it after a bit of editing. I think that's probably the best thing because I get too sort of distracted while I'm doing it on the fly, and I also it would be handy to put in the pathways, that I have discovered. That would be sort of visual cues for me as well. But the point remains the same. I wanted to go through a couple of other things just briefly to show you that I don't even know how to explain this, right? But shit is everywhere. I don't mean this shit like it's not shit. It's a snapshot from a video I took, or I just got off YouTube recently, just showing how clouds repeat themselves. And the person asking the question just recognized the phenomena, right? There's no inroads or no insights into any potential cause of it. Well, this is one of the patterns that he posted. All you have to do is just type in clouds repeating on YouTube, and you will get many appropriate hits. So this isn't just a once-off. This is everywhere. This is everywhere. As I say, I can look out the window now. If there's clouds there, when the moon comes out, I can see it. It's the same thing being projected again. It's the fractal over and over and over again. Here we see it on the moon. Already pointed out in a few different places. Here's the same fractal here, like the crab claw. Here it is as well as it extends back. But we're sort of getting confused in the collage here, or the overlapping. Doesn't look particularly exact, but well, here we go. You can see down. It's like a clone. It's like a clone. It's the same every time. As I say, it's like look. There's that gap here. There's this gap. There's that gap here. You can see down to the knuckle here. Look the way it bends. Right. You see it? Let me just give you a full picture of it. There you go. Once you see these things, once you spot these things, look at the circular patterns above even. Look, let me zoom in a small bit. In the clouds, look, circular formations within the clouds. That's not surprising because everything is circular. Everything is a fractal reflection of this self-same crater being broadcast again and again. Yeah. Now I could show you it. So remember this pattern here. Let me just flip that back. I'll show you where a pattern is. This is a serpent, by the way. So that's the serpent. That's the I think 2.88 miles calls it the behemoth. Right, he's identified the serpent and a huge whale-like creature of monstrous sizes, continental sizes almost, to be layered into the Sahara Desert. Very interesting stuff that he's finding. Look at the big patch in the center here. This equates to this. I should take a few pictures myself. This is probably in terms of formation, so he wouldn't have got the whole picture. I certainly wouldn't have known what he might have been looking at. Let me just show you where these things come from. And you never guess where I'm going to, what do you call you? Send you back to. You see that eye here, what looks like an eye as well? Let me show you that in the moon. Let me show you that in the moon. Okay, okay, let me just take this. Yeah, well, while that's up, let me show you. Do you recognize that pattern? me rotate it around. Once more. All right. There it is, just from a slightly different angle. This is within the moon itself, right? So here we have the main body. There's the reflection. Herodotus, look at it. As you look at it from this angle, it appears to be sunken in, whereas from the other angle, it appears to be rising up. This is the same thing here. So we can see that. And actually, look at these. Look at that's interesting. Now look at these. Look at the pattern on those dots here. Look, and look at the pattern on. Look at the pattern in the very center here. And there's a bit of writing in the way here, but let me just rotate that around the way you can see how the patterns match up. Yeah, that's good. Same thing, but how can it be internal to this, says you, and yet external to that? That's because everything is reflected and imprinted everywhere. Amazing. Another candidate for Orion's belt. And all the stars can be found as well. I found a way to maybe I should get some help from somebody to do a video or something. Anyone who would care to offer a little bit of help doing a video. I don't know where I'm going to actually. Well, this is the thing. I don't know what's going to happen here, but that's what I certainly would need, right? It'd be very easy as well, just to put across a very convincing, compelling case, just in simple terms. But yeah, you have to account for all of these reflections. You have to account for all of these different anomalies, if you will, and they're all the same. So let me just show you, for instance, here, and here, it's the same thing. Slightly different angle you're looking at it from. This crater is the same as this crater, is the same as this crater, just reflected artifacts over and over and over again. Take a while to sink in. She'll be looking at the rest of the planets: Neptune, what was it? Venus, Mercury, Mars. I've already looked at Mars, and Saturn. I've already looked at Saturn, and there you have the same pattern again. Let me bring up Saturn briefly. As we pass by Seth MacFarlane, aka Elon Musk. Fuck it, that's what I wanted to show you. Let me get Saturn here as well, because actually that's interesting, because Saturn is all about the eye of Saturn, right? Yeah, let me get that bloody picture. Okay, sorry about this. Oh, there's the, well, craters. I think that's, let me just, Billinger crater. I think that's Billinger crater in Arizona. And, oh man, uncanny. It's, let me, that wasn't the comparison there. Okay, no, there's better comparisons than that. Just the point being, that's another one to do. The point being, this mirrors. This is what we're seeing. Look at that pathway, even we were talking about earlier on. This mirrors. And look at the 8 in the center. Fuck it. I just noticed that now. Look at the 8 in the center. I had to laugh. And this pattern, this picture here, that's what I was looking at. Honestly, I have so many things that I could present. Here it is down here. Look. It's the self same pattern. But it's yeah, as I was talking about it, this fractal nature of extends to the earth, extends to the earth, and this is what. Let me bring up another picture. I'm sorry, now I went away from what I was looking for, which was um, a picture of Saturn. There is the convex Earth documentary that's been causing a bit of controversy. Of course, it's all prepared for us, so don't get wrapped up in the literal. They're full of clues, but look what they presented us here. We have an 8, right? Uh, I pointed out the 8 earlier on. See it? And they even have this the shape. Look, they even have the shape to the 8. So that's from the convex Earth. So they know about it. They absolutely know about it. And um, yeah, the rest is all theater. The rest is all drama. Here's what I think they're asking you to imagine here. That this is a fractal of this, right? And I've often said this when you're looking at the creators, you have to understand that some images are just that much closer, that much nearer when you're viewing them. So you have to imagine zooming in on your helicopter to this object here and seeing what you see from a close-up view, and this is what you'd see here. This is what they're telling you. But it's amazing that you have the 8, and look underneath, very similar to the patterns here, right? The little, whatever you want to call that, I don't know. Uh, Solidity. Oh yeah, amazing, amazing crater. So it extends everywhere. Yeah? This is the mind-boggling thing. It's refracted everywhere. If you could zoom out from this crater, that would be refracted as well. So it's inward refraction, refractaling, I suppose, is the refract. Look at the eye as well. Can you see how the eye is jumping out at you? Remember I asked you to consider your eyeball the other day? Well, when you really consider it, this is exactly what you see. Everything is Aristarchus, and everything reflects Aristarchus. Probably a smaller version of it here. Look at it, look at it, and it gets ever smaller and smaller. But if you could zoom out on Google Maps, I'm sure you would see a replica of this on a grander scale. I think this is the way the countries are lined up as well. But that's for a different matter. I was just looking for Saturn's eye here. No, I can't find that now. I have too many pictures. And Jamie Brown and Sandra pointed me out to a video where some other guy has found the stars displayed in the moon as well. Same thing as I've done. He did a much better job. He's someone like that doing this stuff because I'm no good. But he did a much better job and proved the case. What he doesn't know is it's, as I say, it's fractal. So when he's been looking in the smallest of places, he'll also find the same stars and the same star interconnections on larger, ever increasing scales as well. So I might leave him a link, or I might leave him. There's a lot to sort of take in, but I'm glad to see that someone else is recognizing that the star system seems to be displayed via the moon. So they'll have to move on from there. I think his conclusion was that we're living on a much bigger Earth. So I'm not sure if he's coming from a global perspective. He hasn't considered flat Earth. He's obviously clearly well out, but I'm not sure exactly where he is coming from. But excellent to see that. And well, as I say, I know how to find all the stars now. And a perfect example here. Look, there's Plato. There you're getting the same thing. And let me just bring up that. to get rid of it. Okay. This is the one I wanted again. What do you reckon? I say, is any they're just any old crater as well. No, man, there isn't. There's more to the story than that. There's more to the story than that. And what a fascinating story there was. Look at this. Look at this roadway even here. Look, this is Crater Plato. I can't draw it in. Look at this pathway here, even coming up and around. And Sandra P900, Kulpix P900, talked about the NASCAR lines and how they seem to be found on the moon as well. Brilliant, brilliant. You know, it's as above, so below. Yeah, this reflective fractal pattern is everywhere, as I say. And look, I was only looking at the clouds today, and once you see this, as I say, you can't unsee it. There's just no way you can unsee it, and you see that it's everywhere fractally, in all directions, all dimensions. When you look at the clouds and how they're being dispersed out. Look at this even ridge here. You know, as it lines up here. It's a slightly different angle, but this is what I'm talking about here. Look, you have some of these craters, like Crater Plato here, which isn't fuck all inside, right? So it's something very limiting here. But once again, once you zoom in, you understand that you're looking fractally down into different layers. But these little dots here, look, there's another, I can't, I'm not in paint here. It is another good candidate for Orion's belt. Yeah. This helps us nail down the star system. This is what's been broadcast again and again. And as I say, we have to bear in mind that we're dealing with superimpositions, we're dealing with overlaying, we're dealing with just the fractal reality. So, yeah, okay, let me get rid of that. I better get rid of some of these things now. I hope everything's coming through okay, and it wouldn't be too bad if it wasn't actually, because yeah, not happy at all at the job I did regarding indicating clearly and concisely what I'm talking about. I just wanted to let me just try find Saturn as the last thing. No, it's there. Okay, I'm just going to have to go into bring a link up. Oh, sorry, it wasn't Saturn. It was Jupiter. Of course it was. I had a brief look at Saturn, and it's very vague. Like, you can't get very many different features from it, and so maybe it'd be under J here for Jupiter. No, okay, I can't. So Jupiter, I just type up the. Yeah, that was the one. Yeah, the Eye of Jupiter again. Aristarchus, same thing. The better image of it here. All these different layers here that you can see then. Well, it's the fractal layers that are being expressed again and again and again, interacting and overlapping. You can see the fork, the trident. It's almost like a trident. This is the same thing I was talking about, the serpent. That's what I was going to point out to you. The serpent on is the serpent to be found in Aristarchus. Well, here it is here. You see it? You can find it in 1,000,001 different places. Here it is here, as it's been fractal downwards, right? Can you see it? A snake with its mouth open. And no matter where you go, you'll see it. Let's zoom in a small bit. You can see it here, look. And that's a perfect example here of what you'll see in the clouds. You'll see this shape. It's like a sort of an upper lip, right? That's what you'll see again and again and again and again and again. That's what you see. That's what you see in the moon. That's the serpent of old, as I say. And this is the source of it. Now that you've seen it, you're going to see it in the clouds. You're going to see it in water. You're going to see it in waves, because it's all prevalent. It's all prevalent. So, yeah. Fascinating stuff. Another candidate for Orion's belt here with the three together. Let me do that. Let me bring that up briefly. You'll recognize this, Stonehenge. Rotate it. One more. There we go. Can you spot Orion's belt? These three stones here. Look at these pillars. Look at this pillar in the center here. Doesn't it look very much like the entrance to Stonehenge here? Or sorry, the bigger one. This one here. This here is a fractal of this, right? It's just ever fractals. It's all fractals all the way down, all the way down, all the way down. But doesn't this look very familiar here and equivalent to this? Here we have Orion's belt nearby. Look at it, 1, 2, 3. And as I say, because it's fractal, you're going to see it again and again and again. Orion's belt here again, 1, 2, 3. Is a great example here of the serpent, if you will. Just here at the top, look. And just make it out here, but here, all the way across the other side. That's the pattern that's repeating again and again. See it down here as well. It's like a crocodile with a mouth open. I think this is what we've been pointed to as well, you know, with all the different mythologies and all the different creatures given life, anthropomorphized, right? They're telling us, all pointing us to the same thing. I was thinking today in terms of just looking at a puddle drying, and I was going, that's the Starship Enterprise there. So the puddles even seem to be drying in the same pattern. So make of that what you will. Make of that what you will. Yeah. Okay. I think I'm gonna sort of call it a shot because I'm getting sick of hearing myself as well. I'm not doing a great job on this. I'd probably do better if I'm talking to somebody, you know what I mean, and interacting or relating to somebody. Definitely someone with better computer skills and a better ability to sort of explain themselves and do a presentation would do a much better job than me. But the same thing, the premise is sound, and I'm absolutely sure anyone who does the same sort of comparison themselves will find exactly the same. There's no doubting it at this stage. And yeah, where to go from here with it is the next question for me. It's so deep. It's as deep as eternity. It's like looking into that crater there. It's like looking in there again. You can see the G. Let me. Can you? Did this the last time now myself? I didn't make a note of it or anything. Yeah, even Stonehenge there. So that's probably a good. Let me just swing it around once more. Rotate 90 degrees. Yeah, that's probably a better. So here you still see the broken aspect. So here we're given the hint that there's a broken away part of it, and the rest wraps itself around. So we can go by the inner layer here. Um, yeah, that to me is what it represents. There's no doubts about it. Everything is pointing back to the same thing, the same source. And yeah, everything is known. Everything is known. There's nothing new under the sun. There's nothing new under Aristarchus, right? Um, Excellent. Mind boggler. Mind boggler. Okay, listen. Emmy, have I anything else to bring up? Yeah, here's a picture of Mars. You can see how this is a good definition quality picture, and you can zoom in well enough, but it doesn't give away very much. It doesn't give away very much. The dune overlay gives away a whole hell of a lot more. But as I say, once you recognize the pattern is unmistakable. You'll see it every time. So yeah, amazing stuff. Um, yeah, coincidence. Let me bring that up again. Coincidence. This is supposed to be Mars. This is Africa, the blue marble. What a close one. What a close one. And yeah, this is not someone tricking you. This is not someone going like an inside joke. Look, the people, the clowns don't know, right? So we'll paint, we'll go over the surface of Mars and we'll do it like the Earth. No, no, no. It's not. This is telling you about the fractal pattern that is everywhere. So yeah, it's uncannily similar, isn't it? It really is uncannily similar. uh, but yeah, I'm very happy with that find there about Aristarchus and it in reverse as well, because down here in the corner, it in reverse as well, because yeah, this is something when we're trying to figure out the visuals, we have to understand if something is mirroring or how many times it might be mirroring. And this is where the triskelion or in triplicate it is giving us our clue. Um, so, okay, I'm not even going to go into chat because I yeah, I didn't come on to sort of have a chat. I definitely learned about this. I'm not good at presenting anything convincingly. I will definitely consider preparing something beforehand. As I say, even just well, it would take a video, wouldn't it, to sort of go through that, but sort of be a bit more meticulous with it. Um, from my own point of view, but in my own defense as well. Yeah, I see now that uh, this is sort of stage one, really. So I don't want to sort of spend too much time and effort on it because there's so many other things to sort of think of and consider. Like it was like once I knew the Milky Way is on the moon, right? Once I know for definite it's there, then I sort of build from there. I don't dwell on that and try to prove that to everybody. I put out um, sort of in a, where I am, and I sort of move on myself then. So I just wanted to put that out with Venus on the moon. Um, Feel free to make your comparisons yourself and bring up the best high definition images you can. Your starting point, as I say, is Aristarchus in the top left corner, and you can match up everything from there. You can walk through just with the right eyes, understanding that there is some distortion to be incorporated into your thinking. So yeah, that's Venus and the moon for what it was worth. I'll leave it there, friends, and apologies again for another sort of all over the place presentation, if you want to call it that. I'll continue on in my reckoning anyway, and yeah, it just seems like it's never ending. It's going to be a sort of a massive curve of learning from here on in, because yeah, it really is everywhere. Aristarchus is the answer, and it was always presented to us as being the ultimate answer. So once we can sort of make our way there, then I think we're close to being home. Right. I'll leave you with the usual, the parting glass, and until the next time, thanks for watching, and Ovel to all. Oh, the money that e'er I spend, I have spent it in good company. I know the harm that e'er I did, alas, it was to none but me. I know I've done for want of wit, to memory now I can't recall. So fill to me the parting glass, good night, and joy be with you all. If I had money enough to spend and leisure time to sit a while, there is a fair maid in town that slowly has my heart beguiled. Her rosy cheeks, her ruby lips, I know she has my heart in thrall. So fill to me the parting glass, good night, and joy be with you all. Oh, the comrades that e'er I had, they're sorry for my going away. And all the sweethearts that e'er I had, they would wish me one more day to stay. But since it falls unto my lot that I should rise and you should mount, I'll gently rise and I'll softly call good night, and joy be with you all. I'll gently rise and I'll softly call good night, and joy be with you all. Good night, friends. I love you, Steve.